You're listening to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Want to get involved with Sports on Tap on social media? Go to Twitter and follow Sports on Tap at SOT Podcast, or go to Facebook, facebook.com/SOT Podcast.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video.
Welcome back to Sports on Tap. We're part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. I'm Rob Chop. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Chevy here.
Sean Duffy dabbing.
Wow.
Dabbing fools. Dabbing on them.
Unbelievable. I was shocked to see that.
Shame. Aw, shame.
We're live from Studio J in Brunswick, Ohio.
Oh, sorry. I'll turn the music.
No, just keep it going, man. I'm kind of digging this.
Jamming, yo.
It does have a nice beat. Ed's over there like, shame.
How dare you?
We're going to be talking high school hoops here at Sports on Tap. And, you know, great job. Cleveland.com does a great job of their top 25 and, you know, got updated. They've had a lot of games going on. You know, some teams have played 12 games. Some teams play 9. You know, it differs per team here with tournaments and everything else. But, you know, number one on their list is Lorraine.
Yeah.
They're 8-1 right now as they beat number one ranked Warrensville 86-65. That was on January 13th. Coming up though this week, which you know they have St. Ed's. Friday they have Bedford. Saturday Clearview, and they're ranked number one with only one loss. And they've been climbing that ladder. And it seems like every year Lorraine is at the top there.
They did take a loss against St. Ed's on Tuesday. St. Ed's got up to a 19-point lead. Lorraine was able to cut it to within 7 before St. Ed's was able to pull away for a double-digit victory over the Titans, and that was at Lorraine.
Wow, that's a big win by St. Ed's there.
Yes, it's not very easy going into that gym and getting a victory over the Titans, but St. Ed's obviously proved their mettle and was able to take care of business.
And St. Ed's is actually ranked number 5. They have a 9-3 record as they were beaten by the number 2 St. Ignatius Wildcats. They're 8-4 on the year, and they beat St. Ed's 90-80 in overtime. That was on January 13th. But then Ignatius lost to North Canton Hoover 77-58, and that was on January 14th. And coming up on Saturday, they play Central Catholic. So Ignatius is right there. And men are number 3 at 8-1. They played Shaker Heights and beat Shaker Heights 73-59. That was on January 10th. Then came back and beat Medina by 22 points, and that was on January 13th. So, you know, Medina has had a really impressive year, but they can put up some points. So holding them to 67 points. Men are very impressive, and men are also beat Brunswick, who Brunswick has had a pretty good season as well. That was a close game at Brunswick, but men are won there. So they're the number 3 seed. And then you look at St. Vincent St. Mary. They're at number 4 at 7-4 on the year. And they lost to Trotwood Madison 100-62.
Yeah, they were at the Flying to the Hoop tournament in Dayton, and that's a big-time tournament. And Trotwood Madison is in the Dayton area is really, I mean, that's saying something when they drop, 38 point victory on a team like St. Vincent St. Mary. You know, that's impressive. But again, just to pick up where you left off there, Rob, on January 14th, St. Vincent St. Mary rebounded and beat Pickerington North 64-56 on January 15th. So this week they have Ellett on Thursday tonight, and Saturday they play Shaker Heights. They're at Shaker Heights. So they have 2 away games to kind of rebound from that big loss to Trotwood Madison at the Flying to the Hoop tournament.
Yeah, that's huge. But number 5 is St. Ed's. They're 9-3. We talked a little bit about them. They lost to Ignatius, but bounced back against Lorraine, and they will play Toledo St. John's Jesuit on Saturday.
You got to think with St. Ed's beating Lorraine, they're going to probably climb out of that 5 spot, probably to 4, perhaps, just depending upon how that win looks against a team like Lorraine. Obviously, with the number 1 team in the area on the lead, on the website here.
Well, I think you look at these teams, a lot of them have 2 or 3, even 4 losses. I mean, look at Cleveland Heights. They're number 7. They are 7-4 on the year. So you're seeing, I think, teams that, might be pretty close in talent maybe this year.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to basketball, I mean, there are a lot of games to be played, and it's not as these, of course, are very subjective rankings. So it's not, just because a team is 7-4 or 7-4, 9-3.
Right.
You might look at them and say, well, they have 4 losses. How are they ranked that high? There's such a disparity between high school, like the competition in high school basketball, that Cleveland Heights 4 losses. Maple Heights is a conference opponent, right? You can't really take them lightly, no matter what their record is. Cleveland Heights could have went and played a powerhouse from Indiana or one of the best teams in Cincinnati that most people really don't know about. For example, they lost to Centerville. Centerville's not around here. So Centerville could be a very good team. I honestly don't know if they are or not. So when you look at these rankings and you see some of these records, and you might think to yourself, it's 4 losses, doesn't seem like a top 10 team. If you watch them play, most of them probably pass the eye test. And if they play a 10-1 team who's played nobody, you'll see the disparity. You'll see just how good that team really is going forward. Garfield Heights, they did win against Akron Garfield on Wednesday, so they do improve to 10-3 on the campaign. They will take on Big E, Kofi, and Xavier Woods of the New Day Academy on Friday.
That's a wrestling thing for those of you not interested in that, but
yeah,
I got it.
There we go. We got one of us here.
Oh, no.
I hope they come out like that, like when they do their introductions. That would be fantastic.
That would be sweet.
Then we got Cleveland Heights is number 7. They're 7-4. Lost to Maple Heights. Lost to Centerville. They will take on Lutheran. They played Lutheran East yesterday. They will take on a very close rival of theirs, Warrensville Heights, out on Friday. Akron Archbishop Hoban 10-1. They defeated Gilmore 78-46, and they also defeated Lake Catholic. They played Western Reserve this week. They will then go to Padua, and then bring up the last 2 teams at the top 10. Benedictine 8-2. They beat NDCL last week. They had a game against Toledo Scott. There we go.
A little late to the party.
There we go. Bengals
coming down to the ring.
We might do the rest of the segment like this.
Weighing in.
The Bengals will take on Lake Catholic on Friday. They will take on Revere, home of the Nance, home of Larry Nance's son, on Saturday. And then defending state champion Cornerstone Christian, they are 10-3. They did defeat Bedford last week. They also defeated Sugar Creek Garaway. And they played NDCL this week, and they are off for the weekend.
Very nice. And I know Ed and Sean would be happy with Copley, who we covered in football season. They're 10-0 on the year, number 12.
Impressive.
And Elyria, they've played some tough games. They're ranked 13th.
Solid win over Medina there.
Yeah, by 1.
And Solon.
That was a last-second shot by Elyria from way out beyond the three-point arc to win that game. Yeah, and a big win versus Solon. They'll play Euclid on Friday. And Medina, I mean, they're 10-2. They lost to Elyria, like we just said, and lost to Mentor. 2 very good teams, but they recovered against Highland. And Friday they'll play Solon.
Wow.
As Studio J gets a little crazy out here. But Solon 18th at 9-3. Go ahead, Sean.
I have nothing.
Oh, okay.
Maple Heights.
I thought you wanted to say something.
Dynamite dropping.
Maple Heights 15, 9-2.
Sorry. My information just went away from me. My apologies.
But a lot, like we said, a lot of good teams. A lot of good teams in the top 25 here. But like you said, Ed, that's the one thing I think. Like you say, a lot of these teams play so many games.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are out of conference opponents that you may not have heard about. That are Brunswick for a long time went to New York. I believe they probably went there again. They do that almost every year. But Brunswick, they're still 10-5 on the year. Strongsville at 4-7, and Brunswick lost a tough one to Highland, 58-54 to start the season off. But Brunswick, I think, is that team that continually has a lot of close games, really, in their division. They could have went either way, with their team, and they have a pretty young team. We talked to Coach Mackey before the season. And he seemed like some players needed to step it up, but overall they're still a 10-5 and a 4-3 in conference, which is not bad in a pretty tough conference.
Their other loss is a non-conference loss to St. Ed's. So it's not like they're not playing good competition, as you pointed out. They're a team that you don't really want to see in the playoffs. You can ask Lorraine from a couple of years ago, where they gave them all they can handle. In the district tournament, and they won the district last year. They did graduate a lot of the talent from that team, but Coach Mackey knows how to prepare his teams for the playoffs. If they need to go to a slow it down, almost like a Hoosiers-like type of game, they can do that. They can mess the game up and make it a little bit hard to score. If they need to open it up, they can. It just depends on the flow. And Coach Mackey is one of the best coaches in the area, and I'm not just saying that because we are. Most of us are from Brunswick, and and whatnot. He's consistently proved it year in and year out. It doesn't matter what type of talent he has on his team. He fits his game plan to that talent, and that talent, he knows how to get the most out of him.
Well, and look what he's done this year. His losses: 8-point loss to Menor, 4-point loss to Solon, 4-point loss to Medina, an 11-point loss to St. Ed's, and they've won 3 in a row now versus Strongsville, Shaker Heights, and Youngstown, Ursuline. So, they're on a little bit of a 3-game winning streak. Now they play at Menor coming up tomorrow, on the 20th. Yeah, tomorrow. So that's a huge game to keep an eye on. I think that's a huge game for Brunswick. If they can win that, all of a sudden this team has momentum as they look towards Elyria, Solon, Medina, Strongsville, Euclid, and Shaker Heights, which all those are winnable games. So the season, they can be rolling into the playoffs with a little bit of a winning streak.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get to the playoffs, you go back to those same things, your subjective rankings. But the coaches do. The coaches vote themselves in. They vote who the top seeds are, and then they are able to place themselves in those in their respective brackets.
Yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting year for high school basketball as we continue on, and still a little bit of the season left. So get out and watch some high school basketball. A lot of great talent out there. A lot of great games ahead. And guys, any other thoughts on the high school basketball season?
Well, it's just you're looking at the season itself, and the high school basketball season is similar to that of hockey, where at the beginning of the season you have some non-conference games, and you get into like a holiday tournament schedule, and then once the holidays are over, then you're getting knee deep in your conference, and that's where those games are very important. And we see, we could see, and we can see as the schedule goes, and most of the time, you're playing your conference opponents twice in that year, one at home, one at away. So it really quickly kind of separates the good from the bad when it comes to your conference. And it, as we see in Northeast Ohio, I think it's a little underrated as far as coverage goes. But I think, the basketball around here, there's a ton of good teams and a lot of good players, and we're just getting into it now. And it's going to be interesting to see as we move into the month of February how things are going to shake out come tournament time.
Yeah, and, as you mentioned, tournament time comes, end of February, mid-February, and really lasts throughout the entire month of March. So, we're seeing it like in hockey. We're coming out of the stretch run for the regular season, and a lot of these teams are gearing up for what they hope to be a deep run into the playoffs. So it's going to be definitely fun to keep an eye on these rankings. Like Ed said, they're subjective. But again, you're also seeing good teams, good players playing well, doing what they need to do to secure themselves either a higher seed in the playoffs or secure themselves a playoff spot altogether. So definitely going to be fun to keep an eye on this going forward.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch, and tournament time is always an exciting time. Watch out for the teams that get hot right before the tournament time. It always seems like it rolls into the tournament, and they go pretty far, so we'll wait and see. So I want to thank everyone for listening. It's been fun talking a little high school sports tonight.
Next show will be February 2nd at Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley.
Be gearing up for the Barron Cup,
which is
following week.
Yeah, we'll talk Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League and gear up for that Barron Cup and try to do a little preview up there and see if we can get Joe Simon and maybe some coaches to come up, but we'll wait and see on that. All right, any last thoughts? All right, for Ed Dick,
stay warm.
Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Troutman saying so long. We're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, everyone.